The Most Absurd Deaths of Kings Part 4. Henry E. of Champagne, King of Jerusalem. Count of Champagne Henry E., under the name of Henry I, became King of Jerusalem in 1192. 5 years after his coronation, Henry died in a very strange accident. He was in his residence in Acre, enjoying the view from the window. Leaning on the grill, it suddenly came loose, and Henry fell down along with it. The height was relatively small, and Henry could have sustained just a few fractures if not for the court jester who tried to hold him back. The dwarf failed to prevent the fall of his sovereign, but he also lost his balance and landed right on the king's head, breaking his neck. The court jester named Scollett literally finished off his majesty with his own behind. The jester himself never recovered from the incident. He suffered a serious femur fracture and died a few days later, following his master. So Henry of Champagne became the first and only monarch in the world to be killed by his own court jester falling on his head. Charles E., King of Navarre in late 1386. The king's health deteriorated significantly. He was unable to move his limbs. The physician prescribed a treatment, wrapping him in linen cloth soaked in brandy. On January 1, 1387, a maid wrapped the monarch and began sewing the fabric, making a cocoon. Reaching the neck, she stopped. She needed to remove a thread. It was night, and she was afraid to accidentally cut the king with scissors, so she decided to remove the thread with a burning candle. The brandy-soaked fabric caught fire, and the girl ran out of the room screaming. King Charles E. of Navarre burned alive. Many considered his horrible death a divine punishment. Martin I., King of Aragon, Valencia, Sardinia, Corsica and Sicily, Count of Barcelona on May 31, 1410, King Martin I, whose domains were scattered across the Mediterranean, hosted a feast in his castle. The wine was intoxicating, the food delicious, and the guests were content. While eating a goose, King Martin was in an excellent mood. Noticing the court jester entering the hall, the king asked, "Boris, where have you been?" The jester replied, "In the neighboring vineyard. I saw a young deer there, hung by the tail like some fig thief." This simple jest amused the king so much that he could not stop laughing, eventually choking to death. It seems that laughter does not always prolong life. King James E. of Scotland, King James E. of Scotland, became king at the age of 6 in 1437, after the death of his father King James I. James was a passionate devotee of artillery and personally oversaw the introduction of new cannons and shooting techniques. In August 1460, he laid siege to the last fortress still under English control, Roxburgh Castle. On August 3, 1460, the 29-year-old James was standing next to the cannon The Lion and directing the firing, but the shot after the command never rang out. The Lion simply exploded. The 16th century Scottish historian Lindsay wrote, "The king stood next to the cannon. His thigh bone was split in half by a piece of the twisted barrel, which broke off upon firing and crushed him to the ground, killing him on the spot." Continued in the next part. Dear friends, if you enjoy our stories, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and leave a comment if you wish.